Good morning, everybody. How's everybody doing today? It's time to get this video started. Gonna be a snowstorm coming in tonight or tomorrow, if not for sure on Sunday. So I had to get the plow put on the ATV, and that's all ready to go. Tomcat's on the couch. He's pretty smart. He's got that space set out because I always sit there and he sits beside me, and that's how we cuddle. Right, Tomcats? But I gotta run some errands, Tomcat, so we can't cuddle yet. No. And I will be back in a couple hours. And then I'll have a little cuddle session with you before I go to the garage. Will that be okay? Will that be okay? Do you want some chin scritches? Do you want some chin scritches? Oh my, you're such a big suck, Mr. Toms. Such a big suck. I need to get some fuel. I don't know, getting cold. I don't know if this fuel that's in there is summer blend or mixture winter blend, but it's gonna get cold pretty quick, so I'm gonna go fill up. When I park the car in the garage during the coldest months of the winter, I will most likely do the injector then. I'm still kind of debating if I should hold out until I get an injector code or just change it while I have it in the garage. I need to find somewhere that I could take the injector, preferably locally, and get them to fix it or service it or whatever. It's that time of year, gotta have the furnace going. It was actually really nice out earlier this morning when I went and ran some errands. Had some cuddles with Tomcat. Now it's time to get outside the garage, start another project, taking it easy for the next little while, just so that videos can catch up and give me time to research and plan some other things I need to do, because I've been going hard all summer producing content, and this is kind of like the in-between period. This is my third week back to work as well, and that's been going all right. But before I could do anything inside the garage, I need to start organizing my bench. And what I mean by organizing is just shuffle it around so it's out of the way, basically. I would love to have a larger shop to work in, but just not in the cards right now. Just not in the cards, unfortunately. Having a hard time trying to keep this thing to run because it keeps saying the low oil light comes on because it's burning oil so much. But I'm gonna restart rebuilding it. It's gonna throw in a bunch of transmission fluid to kind of help clean her out. Before I tear down the engine, I'm gonna put a bunch of this Marvel mystery oil in there. So if you guys noticed, I sold that Miller plasma cutter that was actually really useless. I needed a 20 amp plug and need to run off the generator. I sold it. Still have the ESOP Rebel covered in stuff. Selling the steel. Someone's coming for it right now. Because you guys might remember after the last camping trip, that was the end of the road for me for the steel. It's just not going to be cut out for what I want. Smelling gas fumes in the Jeep. I don't want to go through the hassle of building a carrier somewhere just to hold it on my Jeep just to go out and fight with it, because it's going to get vapor locked all the time. So that being said, Home Depot had a sale on. If I bought the chainsaw, comes with a battery, charger. I think it was like $348. You got another battery. It's only 2 amp hour for a free $138 value. Electric 40 volt Steve and Fedor both have the Milwaukee and DeWalt. I believe both of those are 18 volts. And those are okay. I went with the Ryobi because my lawnmower is also 40 volts, so those batteries can all be used together. And I figure 40 volts should be more efficient and more powerful than 18. And as much as I love Milwaukee tools, from my experience, I've just not been satisfied with any tool that they make that involves cutting. Any other tool that I have and own from them work good, except for any tool, like I said, if I have to cut with it, just doesn't fulfill my needs. Whoops. See outside what I talked about earlier. Snow is coming, unfortunately. Man, that thing is green. I can't wait for the next camping trip to try it out. Not only that, I also want to do a comparison against Fedor's Milwaukee 18 volt and Steve's DeWalt 20 volt. And I want to see how this 40 volt compares to those ones. Should be interesting. Should be a good video. For the next thing in that box is a cheap plasma cutter that I picked up off Amazon Prime days. I got consumables as well, and the total cost came to under $300. Supposed to be a 45 amp plasma cutter, no name. So let's have a look at that and see if it's going to be better than that Miller, which I found was pretty much useless. It says right there, Reboot, 220 volt, good quality. I think you really got to question anything that says on the box, good quality. We're about to find out just how good it really is. Tell right now from the packaging, this thing is not very big at all. This must be your hoses, styrofoam. Wow, that's really tiny, really tiny. There's like no weight in this thing. Makes you wonder if there's any electronics in it. So I just got it all assembled here quickly. Set up to 65 psi. I know what this is for your amperage. I don't know what this is. Pre-flow for your air before and after. I'm not exactly sure. Might have to play around with that and see. One thing I didn't think of though, air compressor, only one plug. So I'm gonna have to fill the air compressor up and then plug the plasma cutter in and do any cutting. It's gonna be kind of a pain. I'm gonna start with small piece, try to cut with. Plugged it in. I'll power it on. Does that knob do anything? Plugged in, we got power. That fitting they gave us leaks really bad. Alright, let's see if we can cut something. That's a little bit thicker, like 3/16. I don't know, let's go 27 amps. Cut through that. So I got that plate. It's at least a 1/4 inch. I know, 38 amps, let's try. Wow! This thing is badass. Cut right through that. Looks like we may have hit the duty cycle with the light though. I'm gonna have to read up the instructions and see. It says I exceeded the duty cycle limits. Hardly cut anything. So I'm going to try this again. Put the volts down, our amps down to 25 because I had it up pretty high before. And that's, you know, I think it's rated at 45 amps and that's a cut 1/2 inch. So this is roughly about a 1/4. And we're going to use a lot less amps than what we did. We're going to cut this piece across here and see what happens. See what happens. Maybe just 5 more amps. Even at 30 amps, still couldn't cut it. Crazy. I'm impressed with this thing. I had my doubts, but I'm actually very impressed. I just did like a way larger cut and I didn't get the temperature light come on, so I'm not sure what the deal was behind that. I'm not gonna lie, for $229 I got or paid for it off Amazon. I think that's gonna be worth every penny. If I would have had the plasma cutter when I used this to cut out the circle for my spare tire carrier, or even cutting the brackets off the axle, would have made life so much simpler instead of trying to use a grinder. Worth its weight in gold so far. So people are going to ask how I'm going to charge this in the woods. If you look at the power supply, it says 80 watts. Not a lot of power. I got this 120 watt inverter that'll easily power that and charge my chainsaw batteries if I absolutely need to in the bush. So now on to another project. You guys remember a few years ago, I picked up that BR 600 steel blower and I replaced the motor in it. But I gotta get it out from the shed and adjust the valves. Because those engines are infamous. If you do not check and set the valves roughly every 100 hours, that motor is going to blow up. I bought a special feeler gauge a while ago. Well, quite a long time ago. Question is, where is it now? If I was smart, I would just put it in the top two junk drawers. There's a razor blade down there. You gotta be careful with that. Spark plugs, another razor blade floating down there. Danger all over. It's a very unique feeler gauge. Let's see if I find it. So I went through, no lie, most of my drawers where I thought I could be, found a ton of feeler gauges from a long time ago, but this is the one I need right here, this bad boy. Got this thing inside, looks like one of the screws fell out the last couple of years. Check the air breather, everything else. I did have my mind on thinking about getting an electric blower till I started reading some of the reviews, and people were complaining that if you use it outside in the snow, once the snow starts blowing around, they start getting shocked. So maybe that's not quite in the books for me yet, but eventually I wouldn't mind swapping everything over to electric, because I believe electric is going to be the future. They still have a lot of issues, especially in the cold Canadian climate, that sucks the life right out of the batteries. But for the most part, I really like an electric. I don't know how tight those are, so we will crank up the power and I see what's going down. All right, air filter. How are you looking, Mr. Air Filter? And I can still see light through it, so it's not plugged. Now, how is this front piece held in place? Yeah, two screws just can't reach. Oh! Now I gotta spin this around. See if we can get to the compression stroke. Yeah, and this is the one. So we got it down. Using my special feeler gauge, there's way too much play. So if I would have ran it another year like that, probably would have toasted this motor. What happens is that I believe once it becomes too much play in these rockers, the push rods bend and break, and that's what causes catastrophic failure in these motors. I mean, last year when I was running it towards the end of the year, I could feel almost like a power loss. You know, when you throttle up. I need an open end wrench. Whoa, that's too much now. You want like a slight drag. This was actually backed off quite a bit. There we go. Same with this one here. Probably, that's a quarter turn. It's a half turn. Back it off about an eighth. Back it off a little bit more. Just ever so slightly. I think that'll work. That settles that. Those valves are all adjusted. Should run pretty smooth. It actually started up really nice. except it's stalled. Now that project's taken care of, I just got one little project left to do back on that plasma cutter. There's some things I didn't really like about it. One of the things is, on the air regulator, the fittings that they give you bottomed out so it leaks air, as you can see where I put my fitting in. So I got one I'm going to change out. Found one in my toolbox right there. And then the regulator also came with a bracket that mounts right there, so I'm just going to patch that up quickly. Made some adjustments. The only place it leaks is through the gauge now because MPT thread just bottom out. But I'm going to do one more cut. I'm going to try to cut that straight. Just a little bit of a leak. Turn this turd back on. They should put the ground on. Okay? Probably would work if I grounded it. Rookie move right there. I am still blown away by this little inverter plasma cutter. Temperature light hasn't come on yet. I just made a pretty big cut. Screwed up right here in the middle because my piece I was using as my edge kind of torched it. But as you can see, when I first started, I had my torch just angled a little bit, and then I tried to keep it more straight here. But now that I look at it, I think I'll just keep it at an angle because it seems to make a nicer cut. It'll be easier to clean up afterwards, but man, that's crazy. I think it's time to grab a brewski, good old Pilsner. And I just unplugged the fridge too because it's winter time. No need to keep it plugged in now. I don't know about you guys, but I am pretty mind blown still about that cheap plasma cutter. I picked it up off Amazon Days, wherever the heck it was, $239. A little skeptical because of it. I took a chance, sold my Miller, which needed to run off a 20 amp service. Could only cut sheet metal. Would never even attempt to cut that stuff because you guys remember a video what I did a while ago when I tried to use a plasma cutter and it was no go and that kind of stuff. And how long it'll last? Who knows? But it's I think it's motherfucking beer time. Good old Saskatchewan beer right here. Drank probably hundreds of these when I was a teenager. Cheers, everybody. So I want to say, I'm looking forward to hopefully be able to get out soon, do some camping. Who knows what's going to happen. Yeah. I'd like to get out a few more times this winter. But I hope you guys enjoyed the video. And I'm really curious if you guys post in the comments below if you lasted this long. If you know anybody who's had that same brand name, a plasma cutter, and if it was any good long term, because the quality does not seem to be on the best side, but who knows. Anyways, I'll see you guys later.